Story Time podcast. My name is David Liebehart, and as always, I'm joined by Babby.
Mm.
Hmm. Yes, it's true. David Liebehart is in the news. I just couldn't.
What?
I know. I couldn't hold it in any longer. We have a slam dunk episode, as always. We have some news to talk about, and I've done the unthinkable. I've watched. Said I was going to watch 2 Planet of the Apes movies every week. I watched 4, and it
Ruh-roh.
it has absolutely ruined my film viewing experience forever. Well, I don't know if that's true, but I watched 4 Planet of the Apes movies, and then I watched Escape from New York, and I'm like, where are the apes? I found myself thinking multiple times while watching that movie. I'm like, okay, but when are the apes gonna show up? And then I'm like, wait, this is
That's how
not
I
one
just
of
go
those.
about life.
I know. That's actually a good rule to just be like every movie, just be like, okay, but where are the apes?
It'd be better if there were apes in it.
It's true. It's true. That's why the King Kong movies are the best movies in the world, and these movies are the best movies in the world. Um, except in this 6 movie run, I've given 2 half-star reviews. A little bit of a spoiler for what to come next. Um, but before we get into ape discussion, let's talk about
Ape talk.
some ape talk. Yes, very, very good. Let's talk a little bit about some news. We'll start, as always, with gaming when there is gaming news to talk about. We had an announcement of a new Arkham game. Oh, don't get excited because it's
Ooh.
exclusively for the Meta Quest 3.
Let's go.
Let's go. I don't know if that it said like exclusively on Meta Quest 3. I don't know if that means it's like exclusive to that headset or if it's just exclusive to like the Meta store because I think like there was stuff that was like only for the Quest 2, but people with Quest 1s could play it. So I don't know if it means it's exclusive to the headset. But yes, the next Arkham game is another VR title. And I say another because there's already an Arkham VR, which I have not played. It's the only Arkham related thing that I have not played um, because it has mixed reviews on Steam, and I've heard it's like an hour and it's $20. Like, that seems like a lot for what it is. Um, and so I've never played it. This new one is called Arkham Shadow, and we don't know much about it. There was just a little teaser cinematic trailer. There's going to be more info at Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest on June 7th. So I'll probably talk about it then, but yeah, just what we know right now is that it is unfortunately exclusive to the Meta thing. So, wah wah. But that's it for gaming news. I don't think there was anything else. Um, I feel like I always forget gaming news, and then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, wait, did I talk about that on the podcast? And then I didn't. So,
Black Ops.
Black Ops. Is there a new Black Ops?
Yeah, I think it's coming.
Black Ops 5?
6.
6?
It's confusing because there is no 5 technically.
Wait,
The
is it
last,
called Black Ops 6?
yeah, because the last one was
Cold
Black
War.
Ops Cold War, which is technically 5, but
Oh,
this is 6 now, so it just goes 4 to 6, which is going to look a little weird.
that is
But
very confusing.
it is, yeah. But they Treyarch is cool because they do little like stupid teasers, so like newspapers and like
Oh,
they do like little puzzles and codes and games for people to unlock the game
oh,
teaser,
okay.
which is fun.
That is cool.
But there's a defaced Mount Rushmore graphic that
Holy
launches the
moly.
game,
Who's on it?
which is cool. It's like just the Mount Rushmore, and then they're like all wearing blindfolds
Oh, it's
with the
very
cool Black
poignant.
Ops stuff on it.
Oh,
Yeah, people have noticed that the date 2001 with a 9 in front of it is
oh
showing up, so people are
no.
predicting that 9/11 is going to happen in Black Ops. Which, if so, I will
Finally.
buy the game immediately. I've been waiting for this.
Been
Um,
waiting for the
but
9/11
well,
part of
it's
Black Ops.
apparently supposed to be Gulf War focused, so
Oh,
it could literally happen, which would be really funny.
it
I don't know how they're
could.
gonna get away with that, but
I don't know. Well, they got away with a bunch of Russians shooting civilians in an airport.
they did get away with that. And then they remade it, and then you can shoot a child in Modern Warfare. Um,
That's true.
and then you also white phosphorus civilians and illegally kill like uh, a convoy in like the first 30 seconds of the Modern Warfare 2 campaign. So,
Yeah.
but Black Ops always gets a little bit more into the CIA operations and all
Uh, secret
the
stuff.
funny stuff, secret stuff, the
Yeah,
scummy stuff. So those are always interesting to me.
sure.
But we'll see what comes of that. But they're kind of doing their teasing.
Sure. It's a new year and a new Call of Duty is coming
Yes,
out.
Call of Duty 9/11.
Um, that's what they call it. I'll buy the game.
That's my code name.
Yes, I'm in Black Ops. Code name 9/11.
9/11.
That's so long. Should be like
Yeah,
Viper or something.
Viper.
I don't know. But now I think that's it for gaming. There's a little bit of movie news. We'll go into the business. Nobody likes business, but let's talk a little bit about business.
Anti-business podcast.
This is an anti business podcast. I hate talking about mergers and acquisitions, but unfortunately, so much of the movie going experience is knowing everything that someone with a bachelor in business would know. So, yeah, I'm not doing my research enough. But uh, we have some maybe unfortunate news. Maybe. I don't know how to feel about this, but two of my favorite players in the like not really studio, I guess distributor game, which is a weird thing to have favorites in, but Criterion and Janus Films have been sold to the founder of the studio Indian Paintbrush. It is Stephen Rails. Now, if you've never heard of Indian Paintbrush, I don't necessarily blame you, but that means that you haven't seen a Wes Anderson movie in a hot minute because that's the studio that does like every single Wes Anderson movie and has for decades. I don't know what else they do. That's literally the only thing I know Indian Paintbrush from. Um, but I think they're a small studio, relatively. Um, but I'm a little worried because I think Criterion, I mean, they're definitely the most like mainstream distributor of really high end film releases. Um, and they tend to do like artsy stuff, uh, more appealing to weirdos like me. And I have a bunch of their releases, and I'm very pleased with all of them. And Janus Films, every time I watch an art movie, it starts with a Janus Films logo. When we watched House, the Janus Films logo popped up. It's like
House.
the coin thing, and then Janus
Yes.
Films. Yeah, I think I think when that logo came up, I think Babjab, a famed co-host of the Boytime channel, made like a Janus joke, and I was like, "Oh, Babjab, don't make fun of these guys. I love I love Janus Films." But I held my tongue because I didn't want to harsh the mellow.
Seething in the corner.
I wasn't seething, but I'm just like, man, I really like these guys. I don't know. Um, uh, so I don't know how to feel about this. I think Janus Films is definitely the bigger hit for me, just because they too tend to distribute and make available a lot of the kind of underground indie movies that maybe a streaming service wouldn't necessarily add because there's not enough draw. But I think they have a deal with Max and they release like a bunch of their stuff. Or maybe it's a deal with TCM, which is owned by Warner Brothers, so it's on Max. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think this is necessarily going to impact anything, but it was just a headline that I saw and I'm like, that's a little concerning that both of those studios are being bought out, but also it's probably going to be okay. It isn't like they're being bought by like a huge conglomerate. It isn't like Criterion is owned by Disney or whatever. It's just some different dude as opposed to whatever dude was doing it before. But I don't know. I'm afraid of change, and that's what it comes down to, I think. Especially when it comes to my little small underground art movies. I don't know why I keep saying art movies when I hate art movies, but whatever. The foreign movies, I don't care. Let's talk about something fun. Shrek 2 Retold got a trailer. Have you
Let's
seen the
go.
trailer?
I have not seen the trailer.
Holy moly. The cast they got for this is insane. And I almost don't want to say who's in it because a lot of the appeal of watching the first one was like, oh, who's going to show
Random
up
people
next?
showing up.
And
Yeah.
then like when sick animation shows up, it's like, yo, sick animation made a whole song for Shrek Retold. That's awesome. But I feel like I gotta say some of these people. I won't go through all of the ones I recognize, but man, it is like everybody I could have ever wanted. Even Tay Day shows up. I love
Yo,
Chocolate Rain. But I think the big ones for me, you got Joe Pera, you
classic.
got Gilbert Gottfried somehow.
Posthumously.
I guess he recorded his lines or something before he died, which shows how long this has been in production. And David Liebehart.
Ooh,
Yo, David Liebehart.
my favorite man.
I don't know why I saved that one for last. Like that's the one that most people would recognize, but that's the
That's
one
the one
that
I
me.
care about the most.
Yeah, it for me too. I'm like, man, I love. Well, it's the Tim and Eric awesome show, and Beef House. He's
Of
very
course.
prominent in both of
Rest in
those.
peace.
Yes, please. This is another plea. Every time Beef House comes up, I make a plea begging to Adult Swim to bring back Beef House,
It's
and
so fine.
a plea to Max to have it on the GD Surface. You
Bro,
cowards! Why would you take Beef House off? It's the best show I've ever seen. It's even better than The Sopranos. It's better than Breaking Bad. I would watch Beef House every day if I could. That's not true. I think I would go insane. But yeah, there's a lot of good people here. I'm not gonna spoil any because, well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler. They put them all in the trailer, but I'm not gonna say in case you want to just go in blind and be like, "Oh, yo, it's that guy." But they did say that there's many, many more in addition to like the 40 or so names they announced in the trailer. So yeah, I'm pumped. It's coming out on September 28th, so we still got a minute, but yeah, I'm pumped. It's good timing because Shrek 2 just got a theater re-release. So I guess the anniversary is coming up, so they're celebrating it. So congratulations, Shrek 2. Congratulations,
yippee.
DreamWorks. You did it.
Good job.
Yeah. Okay. I have some music stuff, but we'll get there later. Uh, that's it for news. I did put Shrek 2 Retold in the movie news category. I just want to make that clear.
Deserve that.
Yes, of course. But now it's ape talk time.
Let's go.
Um, I'm not going to do a deep dive on 4 Planet of the Apes movies. Um, but I'll do like I need to get off my chest how crazy the stories for this for these movies are, and they get weirder. I'll just say that because, we talked about the last 2 last week, and it was I had a lot of issues with the first one, but now that I've seen all the sequels, I still think that the first one is a huge missed opportunity, and there's one sequel that is actually better than the original, and I'm gonna say it right now, and it's the one that is the stupidest and most ham-fisted and like beat you over the head with its social commentary, but I still think it's more effective as a sci-fi dystopian tale than the original Planet of the Apes. But we'll get there when we get there. But I'll just remind you, the second of the Planet of the Apes movies ends with a nuke going off that it destroys the entire planet and everybody on it. How the hell do they make three more sequels to that movie? Well, let me tell you. It turns out that the nuke didn't kill everybody. And in fact, three apes got way more time than they realistically had to salvage Charlton Heston's ship and get it working and launch themselves into space. And wouldn't you know it, they hit a time vortex that didn't send them forward in time, but rather sent them back to the early 70s.
Man.
Yes, very convenient that they land right at the time when these movies were being made so that they could be set in modern times. And yes, three apes show up to uh humans that, understandably are like, why are these apes here? Um but I want to give a little shout out to our friend M. Emmett Walsh. We had a whole appreciation station for him after he croaked, and he shows up in this movie very briefly. He's one of the army people that greets them on the beach and is like, "What the heck? These apes aren't astronauts." But this movie is very dumb. I think I have it rated the same as the original one because it also is super. All of these original movies are like social commentary for dummies. It's like I've never seen a sci-fi movie with like less nuance than all of these movies, and all of the message is just discrimination is bad, or humanity killing each other is bad, and nothing above that. There is no deeper level to any of the messages in these movies, um, which makes them kind of fun, but also kind of infuriating. Because this one, like the apes show up and one of them dies because a dude in a gorilla costume that is supposed to be a real gorilla kills one of the apes off screen because their mask wasn't as good as the two main apes. So they murdered him off pretty quickly. But it turns out that guy was the rocket scientist that led our two heroes, Zira and Cornelius, who were the two apes that were helping Charlton Heston and Charlton Heston's knockoff in the second one escape the ape society. So there's continuity here. They're the ones that escaped to Earth, and they're very good, representatives of the ape culture because they're scientists. The Cornelius is like an anthropologist, and Zira is like a zoologist, I guess. A zoologist that studies human anatomy because humans are animals in ape world, which is contradicted in the fifth one, but doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nothing in these movies makes sense. But it starts off and there's like a Senate hearing, and they are like, the everybody falls in love with them because there's like this presidential council that like is grilling them and being like, why are you apes here? You say you're from the future? Oh yeah, prove it. And then like the press is all there and they get to snap pictures of these apes, and basically overnight everybody in the entire planet falls in love with these apes because they're cool or whatever. But there's the one guy, he's one human guy, an aide to the president, that's evil and wants to murder them because it's God's will, kind of echoing the guy in the first one, the orangutan in the first Planet of the Apes that wants to murder Charlton Heston for defying his god. It's a really great parallel to show that religion can cloud the judgment of scientific officials. I don't know if that's what it's going for or if it's just like it's in the 70s. Everybody just is like, I'm doing God's will, you know? I don't know. But basically, he demonizes the monkeys. Uh, but wouldn't you know it, Zira's pregnant. She's pregnant.
Ah,
Ah! And I guess ape just what is it called? Gestulation. What I forget what the period of time that someone or a human, not a human. I'm explaining this terribly.
ooh, ooh.
The period of time in which a mammal is pregnant in between uh, uh, their birth and the fertilization of the egg. It's like gesticulation or something. I guess that period of time is very short because she only found out that she was pregnant like 2 months ago and she gives birth in 2 days. So I guess ape pregnancies are pretty short, which is fun. I don't think that's scientifically backed. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I don't think it's that short. Unless like ape ovulation only happens like every 3 to 4 months. So that way, that would be the only way that she would know and then give birth 2 months later. I see. This is my problem: is that I keep thinking about stupid details like this, and it kind of ruins these movies for me. And she's pregnant, and she goes to the circus, and the circus is run by the grandpa in Spy Kids 3, and that's kind of fun. He walks though, so did kind of ruin my immersion a little bit because I'm like, that guy's in a wheelchair, except for when he gets the super power up and then follows a butterfly around. That's the only way I know that that guy acts. But it turns out he was once a circus manager for apes, and it's kind of dark because then the apes run off and live on a boat, and from there they're going to be taken to the Everglades where they're going to own a little colony. And it's like, okay, I see where this movie's going. These apes are gonna get shipped off to Florida, and then the next movie there's gonna be an ape colony and a human world, and it's gonna be this. But no, the evil guy shows up, shoots Zira and Cornelius, and shoots the baby, and you see it. You see the there's like they rigged squibs up to a blanket to show that the baby falls out of Zira's hands, and then a close up of this dude murdering an ape baby. And this flew in the 70s somehow. And I was shocked that that was actually how the movie ended. But then there was a twist. There was a big twist where there's a monkey in a cage in the circus. I guess not monkey, another chimpanzee, but a primal chimpanzee from our timeline. And Zira and this chimpanzee have a bond because Zira just gave birth and that chimpanzee just gave birth. And Zira, in her infinite wisdom, knew that evil man was going to murder her, her husband, and the baby. So she did the old switcheroo. So, wouldn't you know it, the movie ends with that chimp baby saying mama, because I guess apes are able to speak after 2 days of being born. Again, these are the details that I think about that ruin everything for me. But that's how it ends. And it's terrible. It's one of those things where they only had one shot of the ape opening its mouth a little bit. So they do like open, close, and then they reverse it to when it started, and then play it over and over and over again so they can say, Mama, Mama, and have that playing over the credits. It's awful. But it is kind of funny because there is a shopping montage where the apes go clothes shopping, and it's like a 90s rom-com or something where they're like, that dress doesn't look good on you, monkey lady. Ooh, wow, that 70s dress looks great, and it's like the ugliest thing you've ever seen. And then the dude monkey wears a suit, and it's awesome. It's like the end of Mac and Me where the aliens are dressed up in
Yeah.
human clothes. It's just like that. Same level of quality too. And then the fourth one is nuts. This is the one that I think is the best one out of this run. But okay, remember when I said that in the early 70s, those two monkeys, everybody in the whole entire world fell in love with them. And they were like, they're basically humans. You guys shouldn't try to kill them because they're humans, they're intelligent. We should just leave them alone. In 20 years' time, the entirety of humanity has done a complete 180. Not only are apes not humans, not intelligent, they are now slaves because all of the cats and dogs in the world caught a plague and died. And humans, in order to fill that gaping hole that cats and dogs left in their lives, they replaced it with primal great apes. I don't understand how that is the jump that you go to where it's like, okay, cats and dogs, little cute cuddly things that are they love you forever. I'm going to replace it with something the size of like a 14-year-old kid that can rip my face off with how strong it is. But it's just so nice and cuddly. It's just like, that's so weird. Why is this the plot? Why is this why all of the apes are slaves now? Because I guess I guess that one ape that said mama has reproduced and changed the entire ape population in 20 years because it takes place in the early 90s. And the all of the apes now, they're not only pets because humans, I guess they found out that apes could be trained really well. So they're like, oh, now you're going to do housework. You're going to clean for me. You're going to cook for me. You're going to go run errands so that I can get my hair done in a salon. But the salon is run by apes who cut hair. And you go to a restaurant and there's apes that are waiters. Basically, everybody's worried about robots replacing jobs, automation.
Should be
That
worried about apes.
that's what we should be worried about. That's all I'm gonna say is that apes did it and it turned out really well. Except for, I mean, okay, it didn't actually turn out really well because in 20 years' time, we went from like uh, I guess, sort of stable democracy, republic, whatever you want to call it, to complete fascist hellhole where there's like a military police force that is dressed up in Nazi costumes, not even like altered Nazi costumes. Like, I think they just went into the back lot and just found costumes from like a World War II movie, and then they put it on these guys, and they are like a I guess like what Brother Eye is in like 1984 or whatever, the like super secret police force that is like this fascist regime, all because apes, all because those damn cats and dogs died. It plunged the world into a fascist hellhole where apes are
That part I can
slaves.
actually see. If you
I
take white women's dogs away,
oh,
it's over.
that's true. That's true. It's just I just can't believe that that's the choice they made. They're like, okay, we need we need to we're gonna do this thing about how Nazis are bad and racism is bad. And we're gonna do like this slave revolution, like Haitian revolution thing. We're gonna do that. How do we get it to where a bunch of apes rise up against humans? I know we'll have all the cats and dogs die from a mysterious plague, and the white women that love their little Bichon Frises are replacing them with gorillas. I
Makes sense
just
to me.
I just don't see I don't get it. How is this the setting of this movie? And how is it only 20 years after when apes fell from the sky from the future? I don't they should have at least done like 100 years. I would have even taken 50 years, but 20 years is way too short for these types of changes to happen. I don't know. It's nuts. But I think the reason they went with 20 years is because they wanted the grandpa from Spy Kids 3 to still be in it, and makes sense because he's in it just in the very beginning, and he has the baby has grown up and is now promoting the circus with grandpa from Spy Kids, and this was kind of shocking. The kid's name is Caesar, which is the protagonist of the new ones. That's like the trilogy is led by Caesar. So I'm like, why did they take from the fourth Planet of the Apes movie? That's so weird. But I guess it makes sense. I don't know. But yeah, it's just this story about basically it's found out that Caesar can talk. And so there's like this manhunt where like Caesar is leading this underground ape revolution where like I guess apes can understand him when he speaks English, but they can't understand humans when they speak English. Um, because he's just like, hey, everybody, I need 2 gallons of kerosene. I need the waiter to steal knives from the restaurant. And I need everybody to start stealing guns because that's what we need to lead a successful revolution against the governor. And the apes are like, okay, nice. But any other human, they have to say no or home or work or do. And they only understand like words like dogs do, where you're like sit, but dogs don't understand like an entire sentence. But I guess if a dog could speak English, then that dog could communicate to other dogs using the same language. Okay, I need to stop doing this. I need to stop thinking about details like this because it's ruining the experience of these movies for me. But I can't help it. Um, but yeah, this movie was pretty good. It was so dumb and heavy-handed, and that it's just like the bad guys are dressed as Nazis. Don't you get it? Slavery was a bad idea, and concentration re-education camps were a bad thing. I I don't know if at the time in the 70s, maybe there was a debate whether or not the concentration camps were a good idea. It certainly is a debate these days. Have you seen people on Twitter?
Unironically, yes, I have.
I know. um, so maybe the new Planet of the Apes movie, maybe that's what that one's about. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Um, I'll get to
I
it.
just liked them because they were monkeys.
I thought so. I thought this was gonna be a quirky, a quirky movie series about a bunch of monkeys in the future, but now it's just like we're in present day, and it's all weird. But the fifth one picks up right where the last one left off. Not really at all. Like 20 years later. So like now. It takes place in present day right now where the bombs were dropped. I guess apes took over and there was this great war because I guess Caesar led this worldwide ape revolution against the human overlords, which led to humans nuking big cities. I don't know if it's like still in like the Cold War sense where like the Soviets were nuking the Americans and the Americans were nuking the Soviets and it plunged everything into a nuclear fallout. Or if they were, everybody was just nuking apes. But it didn't matter because they ended up killing way more humans than they did apes. And the apes kind of thrived because I guess apes are like cockroaches, where like they survive nuclear blasts, whereas humans don't, which I guess is interesting. So at least we have that. If we end up pushing the button and plunging the world into a nuclear fallout, at least Harambe would have survived.
That's worth it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, the fifth one is definitely the weakest. I think. Well, no, no, it isn't. No, the second one is still worse. But it is like I don't get it because the first like 50 minutes is Caesar breaking back into the city in the original, not the original, the city in the fourth one. And he's like, I need to figure out what my parents said. And as someone who just watched the third one a couple days ago, I was like, I know exactly what the parents said, and this is not a mystery to me at all. But the entire hour of that movie is like, oh, well, what does the parents have to say? And it's like, you're just going to play footage from the third movie. And wouldn't you know it, they do. They just was like, oh, what would my parents have to say about how we should treat humans? And then they cut to the congressional hearing and they're like, we're apes and we think that everybody should live in peace and harmony. And he's like, wow, that's a great idea. I guess I should stop treating humans like lesser class citizens and let them coexist in our ape society because racism is bad. And that's the message of this one. But there's a bunch of Mad Max rejects because whatever, the Road Warrior just came out, and whoever was making these movies saw it and was like, wouldn't it be awesome to have a bunch of like Mad Max like raiders show up and attack the ape village? So they do. And there's like a 10-minute battle scene and like my eyes were glazing over because it was so boring and nothing was happening and nobody that I cared about was dying. So it was the most nothing ever. But the end of the movies, the big twist, all of these have to have a big crazy twist. Because they're all directed by M. Night Shyamalan or something. But it cuts to there's like a narrator in the beginning being like, "Oh, Caesar was such a cool guy and nuked everybody." And it turns out that that guy who was reading a book about Caesar was the lawgiver who is the ape that all of the apes worshipped in the first two movies. And so it turns out that that guy was actually a disciple of Caesar, which is I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense in the continuity of these movies. Not that these movies care about that at all, but the lawgiver put in his rules that humans are lesser class citizens and God made apes in God image and humans are disgusting vile vermin that you should wipe out in hunts and like study on them for science. It's like, oh, but I guess in his time he was like, "Yo, humans and apes are chill." So actually, I guess it isn't that far off because that's like 2,000 years in the future. And Jesus was like, "Hey, everybody should be chill." And then all of the Christians are like, "Hey, I want to kill Mexicans. I want to kill Jewish people. I want to kill Muslims." So maybe it's not too
Got a
far
lot of
off.
clips on this episode.
Yeah, it's fine. Maybe this movie's very smart and is saying something about how religious figures can have their words twisted by evil people who twist their words to commit heinous acts. Except I don't think that's what these movies are saying. I think they were just trying to tie it into the first one, but just didn't think about how the first one, the lawgiver, was basically a human bigot. So I don't know. I don't know. But he was like Caesar was the best guy of all time and he was the one who had humans and apes coexist. And it turns out he was doing like the cliche thing where he's reading to children, but the children were apes and humans, showing that in the lawgiver's time they existed in harmony and it was all nice and it's a very nice end to the Planet of the Apes movies, and they never made another one until Tim Burton did in
Until
2001. Tim Burton was like, I'm going to make the second worst thing to happen in 2001. I'm going to make the Planet of the Apes a remake of the cult classic original. And keep in mind, this is Tim Burton during his flop era, which he hasn't really gotten out of since. But he basically made Ed Wood and then was just like, I'm going to cash in and make really bad movies. And so this was during that time. And he was like, I love the Planet of the Apes. I'm going to do the same movie, but I'm going to cast Marky Mark Wahlberg in the lead. And It's gonna be worse. I This is the second one I had as a half star. I couldn't believe it was as bad as it was. But I guess I don't know how much I'm gonna talk about this one because it just made me really upset because it was even dumber than the original run, which I didn't think was possible. But I guess in the future, Marky Mark is a space pilot. He works on a space station, but oh, he wants to fly a plane so bad, but they have genetically engineered apes to fly planes instead because I guess robots don't exist in the future. It isn't like it isn't a Tesla autopilot or whatever. It's an ape,
They
and
returned a monkey.
they return the monkey, which maybe is the way we should go. There's a lot of prophetic messages in these movies, and all of them just lead to apes are better than everything, better at everything than us.
It's true.
So maybe we should just have them in charge, which I actually agree with. Um, so yeah, he's like, I just want to fly a plane. Why won't anyone let me fly a plane? I have to have this monkey fly for me. And so they happen across a nebula of some sort, and they're like, this is weird. Let's send an ape to, into the nebula. And they send an ape into the nebula, and they lose contact with it. And Marky Mark's like, that's my ape. That was my little buddy that I secretly resented. So I'm gonna go into the nebula and save him. And he flies into the nebula and he gets teleported for whatever, 600 years into the future to a time where apes they lead society and humans are slaves or animals or something. They don't really say, but this one also has the brave message that racism is bad. But this one is more like on the nose with it, in that they have like apes say like, "Oh, I think humans shouldn't be reintegrated into our society. I have all of the diversity that I can handle." Or like another ape being like, "Oh, all humans carry diseases and are dirty." And it's like, "Okay, I get it." These are like right-wing talking points or whatever in 2001. This is what Rush Limbaugh was saying about whatever minority he didn't like that week. I get it.
All of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I understand, but it's just like it's so obvious. More obvious than like having the humans dress up as Nazis. It's just like the apes being like, "We're right wing. We're racist." It's like, okay, okay." But yeah, it's just it doesn't make any sense because although I think the first movie is really flawed and dumb for what it is, it got the ape human relationship right in that humans act like beasts. They don't talk, they actually can't talk, and they basically act like caveman, like whatever. They've reverted back to hunting and gathering, really just gathering. And whereas the apes are like intelligent society focused on science or whatever. In this movie, humans are the same as they are right now, but apes still treat them like beasts. And it's like, why are humans letting this happen? There's like a big final battle at the end between all of the apes and the humans, and there's a lot of humans, like hundreds of humans, and they can communicate and they are fairly intelligent. And it's like, why aren't you guys coordinating? That's like literally our whole shtick is that humans tend to group together and like divvy up responsibilities. And I feel like you can you can say like, "Hey, we're gonna have a human town here, and if you apes try to get us, then we're gonna attack you." And I guess no human thought of that before Marky Mark showed up with his Glicky and started blasting away apes. And they're like, "Oh, that's what we should have been doing this whole time. We shouldn't have just been running away from them and hiding in caves or whatever. It's like, oh, Marky Mark, you're so smart. We should have been fighting back from the people who are selling us into slavery. Oh, doy. It's like, what? Why? What is this? Why are the humans just rolling over like this? It makes no sense. And I don't know. It's weird. All of the apes are more ape-like than they are in the original movies, which makes it kind of weird because it's like in the original movies, I guess all of them, apes just act like humans, which is really the only way to take it seriously because I mean, let's get real here. Monkeys are funny. And so when you just have them act like monkeys, it's hard to take any of them seriously as an antagonist. Um, Especially like with Tim Roth's performance, which I love Tim Roth. He's like in every great Tarantino movie, and he's even in Twin Peaks 3 as the bounty hunter who loves Wendy's, uh, who gets killed, and then Jim Belushi's brother is like, "Oh, people are stressed these days" when they get murked by the random neighbor who starts blasting at them. That's
True.
Tim Roth, and he's fantastic in everything. And for some reason, they have him playing a chimpanzee who's jumping around and snarling at people and is brutal. Um, I don't know. It's so sad. It's that, and then his right hand man is the big guy from the Green Mile, and I'm like, what? What are you doing here? You're like one of the best movies of all time, and now you're in the Planet of the Apes playing a gorilla. You shouldn't be here. And of course, the biggest sin of them all is that Paul Giamatti is in it as as a slave, as like a slave trader who like takes in humans and sells them to other apes at a higher cost. Um, I'm like, ah, Paul Giamatti, why are you here? I don't want you to be here. Um, it's very, very sad. And it's even sadder when he sells it's like so dumb. Where like one of the like senators' kids rolls by and it's like, it's my birthday. I want a baby kid to have as a pet to kind of mirror how apes were pets in in the fourth Planet of the Apes movie. And it's just and he's like, okay, you can have the baby, but no, watch out. They're cute as kids, but nobody wants a human teenager in their house. Bum, 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 bum. It's very funny. Everything about this movie is dumb. And it even like it does the twist wrong. Um, because the first movie, the twist is it happens on Earth. The twist to this one is it's not on Earth. It's just some random planet that the the main ship that Marky Mark was on, they teleported to the nebula to try to find him, but they only went like 200 years in the future. And when they landed, those super intelligent apes, they fought back against the humans and won, and then they became a society or whatever. I guess ape becomes society when angry. So keep that in mind, uh, human leaders. Um, and I guess over time, then they became the leaders, and then humans just gave up, and it took Marky Mark showing up to give them morale to finally kill apes, which trophy hunters have been doing for a long time. So I don't know why it took them so long to get the courage to do it. They should have just gotten Jimmy John on the phone and had him explain why trophy hunting is so cool and that they should just kill chimpanzees. So I don't know. Also, all of the apes on the ship are chimpanzees, and there are gorillas and orangutans on the planet. So that doesn't make any sense. But there's a second twist. It isn't just that it's not on Earth, because Marky Mark gets in a plane and flies back to his time, except, well, okay, he lands in Washington, D.C., he lands on the Lincoln Memorial, and he walks into the Lincoln Memorial to salute our greatest leader. But wouldn't you know it, it isn't Lincoln on the throne, it's Tim Roth ape.
Monkey.
Yeah, it's a monkey. And it's specifically the general from 600 years in the future that they somehow knew was going to do something in 600 years and they had to commemorate it. And then like a bunch of cops show up, except they're cops that are monkeys. And it's like, wait, what happened? This doesn't make any. Why is I thought that all of the monkeys got super intelligent because the mothership crashed down and then the apes led a revolution that were hyper intelligent. But when Marky Mark goes back to his time, did the ape why why is there ape? That doesn't make why is there ape? That's just my question. I just want to ask if I ever meet Tim Burton, which is highly unlikely, but if I ever meet Tim Burton, I'm going to ask him that question. I don't care about, oh, how did you make Beetlejuice? Oh, Batman changed my life. No, why is there apes in Planet of the Apes at the end? I don't get it. There's literally no explanation that I can rationalize in my head for why in Marky Mark's time there are apes instead of humans and how they knew about Tim Roth chimpanzee to commemorate him in a memorial. I don't understand. Can someone please explain this to me? My email is bigdadismyfriend@yahoo.com. Please explain it to
Don't
me.
send an email to that. I don't know if I can get into that content. You will not be getting a response.
Frick. Um, then send it to our business email. It's on our YouTube channel. I want to know. I need an explanation, and I want it directly in my inbox. So, or I guess you could send me a comment on Letterboxd or something. Uh, leave a little a response to my review of the movie, which I'm pretty sure is I can't believe it's worse than the second Planet of the Apes movie. Dot dot dot. Wow, which actually has 2 likes. It's my most liked review, which
Wow.
I don't understand how that's possible. But I don't understand anything about this last week, so I guess it's par for the course. So, all in all, these movies are terrible, stupid, and nobody should watch them. There's literally no redeeming qualities about any of these movies, and frankly, you should stay far, far away from them at all costs. If anyone, maybe you're going over to a party and some guy's like, haha, wouldn't it be funny if we played the original Planet of the Apes movie? You grab the remote, you rip it out of his hand, and you chuck it out the window and then you pay the owner, whoever was hosting the party, you pay them $20 to get a replacement, and then you leave. You're doing everyone a favor. So that's my opinion of the Planet of the Apes movies. I don't know if I've ever hated something more than these movies. Um, I didn't even feel this way about the Fast and Furious movies. I was just like, these are
Those are
like
fun though.
turn my brain off and watch Paul Walker drive fast. That's cool to me. But this one just made me upset and angry and like I was being talked down to, which frankly I hate. So next week I will be talking about the new one, the not the new ones. I don't know how many I'm gonna watch because we're recording this podcast late, so I might watch one or two. I don't think I'm gonna watch them all. I say that, and then I'm probably gonna watch them all, but I'm not gonna try. But I'm actually looking forward to those. I've heard that those are really good, but I also heard that the first one is really good. But I remember the second one being good. When I saw it, and my 11-year-old brain was like, this is a good movie, but I have no idea what's going on. I'm sure I will understand it a whole lot more. Now that I've seen the 6 previous films, I will be all caught up to be like, okay, I know what's going on. This is what Marky Mark was doing in the remake. I understand. Maybe they'll understand why they're apes in the Planet of the Apes Tim Burton movie. That would actually be really satisfying to me. I don't think it would be satisfying to anyone else on the planet, but that would be nice. Um, I did mention that I watched Escape from New York. I'm not going to talk about it. I am exactly like middle of the road on it, and frankly, it needed more apes. Not enough apes. Unless you consider Kurt Russell an ape, because he's a pretty entertaining guy, an ape guy, if
Got
you
him.
will. Yes, that took me all night to think of. Um, but yeah, I'm not going to talk about it, and I'm not probably going to talk about it next week either. Maybe I'll talk about it eventually, but I honestly have nothing to say because I thought it was kind of boring. And I was very disappointed because I love John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. So that's it. That's my review of Escape from New York. Now on to Babby for his segment of the show.
Yay! There won't be any apes
Really?
or harsh opinions about said apes.
Well, I'm glad. I
Probably.
think we've had too much ape discussion in this episode.
Okay, I will keep this as concise as possible. I feel
Okay.
like I'm in a rambly mood, and I'm not gonna go into that.
Okay.
Um, News
Ooh.
first. As of right now, we're recording the podcast late. Vince Staples' new album is out.
Oh.
We've gone from having a podcast where we didn't know this album existed to having a podcast where the album is out.
Wow.
And frankly, that's the way I like it.
Yeah.
He dropped it a couple of hours early, so it is actually out. So I will have a review of that next week.
Nice.
I'm very excited. Very excited. We also have a new Claro album coming
Yeah. Have you heard the
July
single?
12th. I have heard the single,
It's good.
Sexy to Someone. It's very good.
Hmm.
I'm so glad she is leaning into the sound on Sling because the sound on Sling is one of my favorite sounds.
Yeah, I feel like it's a nice combination of her stuff on Immunity and Sling. It's a
Hmm.
nice kind of next step for what she's doing, and I'm a big fan
I
of
agree.
Claro.
So we will be doing this on the channel
Yes,
because, duh.
absolutely.
Um, yeah. So those are the two immediate things. June 7th is ramping up to be a gigantic release day, so we're gonna buckle in for that. We got the No Worries Anderson Pack album.
Oh, yeah.
We got Charlie. Uh,
Oh,
we
Queen.
got more stuff. Um, yeah, it's a big day.
Hmm.
Also, 21 Pilots dropping Clancy tonight. I'm not gonna listen to it,
No
but
way. I may
go
not have
for it.
grown up in the hood, but I know a thing about two are about pain and darkness.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. People said they're expecting another Trench, so we'll see.
Trench.
21 Pilots made one good album and dipped. So, uh,
Did you
yeah,
know that
we'll
there's
see.
long running lore to their albums?
Yes, and I really like it interests me about as much as Taylor Swift fans talking about Taylor Swift at all. Like I just go in delusion mode. Like I'm a
Yeah,
Radiohead fan, so like I play in some of those spaces where there are crazy theories. But
sure.
like at the end of the day, we know we're stupid and we're looking into it too much.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like my rule of thumb is if you're gonna go super deep into your lore and stuff and like make little Easter eggs, your music's got to be good.
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
all I'm saying. Yeah. So that comes out tonight. But when is Porter Robinson comes out July 20th? Why did the album come out so late? We gotta wait for a
Well, we have a
while for
nice
Porter
kind of
Robinson.
space out. We have like
We do,
early
yeah.
June, and then we have an early July with Claro, and then we have a late July.
True. True.
So it's kind of perfect for us.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of the channel and doing videos, it works very well for us.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And speaking of that, we will be doing the new Beth Gibbons record this week.
Yes.
So expect that video
Indeed.
next week. I'm very excited for that. But yeah, okay. That was new stuff. New Clara single is very good. Go listen to it. I will talk about Vince Staples later.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Let's talk about Billie Eilish.
Ah.
Um, New record, Hit Me Hard and Soft. It came out last week. Um, yeah, I was looking forward to this one quite a bit. This was very different than her past releases because it's 10 songs, no singles, no nothing. It just kind of came out, which I think is the way to do it. Um, there's definitely like I don't know. I think when you're this big of a pop artist and not dropping any singles, especially in this day and age of TikTok and everything, is
Yeah.
cool. I appreciate that. Um, and it gives a little bit more of a mystery to what the record actually is going to be. Um, she did copy the Ways Blood cover. That's fine, whatever.
Oh, she
Uh,
did?
well, she copied. She didn't copy, but they're both underwater and they're both practical and real.
Ah,
So there's that, I guess. But we can get into it. It's 10 tracks. This is her follow up to when did Happier Than Ever come out? 22 or 21?
21.
21. Um, she's had a pretty good run so far. When We All Fall Asleep took the world by storm in 2019. Um, I was a Billie Eilish fan during the Billie Eilish hate wave early in her career. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Um,
Boo.
I think Bad Guy was huge, and everybody just like jumped on the oh my god, this is horrible, edgy alt girl pop music.
I don't like that
Um,
song.
yeah, Bad Guy is one of my least favorites. It's
Yeah.
interesting because you have Bad Guy on that record, and then Zanny immediately follows it up and just goes so ridiculously hard. Um, but it was a really inventive, cool alt pop, chill kind of experience. Something very different in the modern landscape of pop music than we've had
Yeah.
by someone so young and kind of out of nowhere.
Hmm.
I mean, she had that "Don't Smile at Me" AP, which was pretty good as well. Her
Yeah.
catalog has been extremely solid. Then
And
we
you
had
got the
Happier Than
Drake
Ever.
cosign.
Exactly.
Yeah, good stuff.
Maybe a little bit too early. Um, but that's a whole other thing. Uh, then we had Happier Than Ever in 2021, which was a beast of a record, actually. 16 tracks on this thing. I think it's fantastic. It was definitely a sleeper hit. I think of this album like Sling, where it is very understated until you really kind of get into it. And then it's like, the layers in it are really, really, really great. Um, and since then she's done a couple of things. I feel like she had like the freaking James Bond theme and a whole bunch of that kind of stuff. Um, actually, No Time to Die came out in 2020. That's crazy. So that came out for that, but she's been
Yeah.
doing a couple of like singly stuff. Um, but this new record definitely feels like a combination of her first two records. It is very, I don't want to say understated, but it's kind of like a down tempo singer songwriter with a little bit of like synth pop influence in it. Um, I will say it is great that it is still just Billy and Phineas this far into the her career, which is
Yeah.
great. I think those two work together in a really, really, really unique way that you don't really hear a lot. Um, but the record itself is really solid. Um, I will say like vocally she gets better as her career goes on. I feel like every record she opens her mouth a little bit more and her voice gets nicer. Like she is like whispery on the first record.
Yeah.
Happier Than Ever, she definitely has some moments where she like really lets it go and it's fantastic. I feel like she's the most controlled when it comes to this record vocally. She has some pretty good runs, and she kind of still mixes that more whispery, ghostly vocal that is popular right now with, you know, more powerful performances. Um, but I think the big standout for this record is definitely the production for me. Finney has killed this thing. I think in a world of Jack Antonoff making every single huge pop record for the past 3 years, it gets a little tiring because Jack Antonoff, he isn't one note, but he's pretty close. I think he works better with certain people than others. Um, Taylor Swift not being one of the best ones he works with, I wouldn't think. It got stale really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, I do think Sling is the exception. I think Sling is the best thing Jack Antonoff has done in this kind of run of his domination of pop and like folk area.
Even better than the
When it
fun
comes to like,
some nights.
yeah, but not
Gotcha
by
there.
much. You know, I gotta give him stars. Song
That song
sounds like
slaps.
garbage, but goes hard.
Yeah. I'm just joking.
Bro
Yeah,
made a
song
mix
slaps.
bad, but like made it sound good. So
I
that,
like
you
it.
know,
I like it.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I think Phineas killed this thing. I think just the variety of instrumentals here and the depth that they go into is really, really great. Um, the sonics here are great. I think it's so hard when you're such a big pop artist to like have inviting kind of instrumentals when everything is so poppy. Um, but I feel like they've always been a little bit left of center, despite being like the biggest pop artists in the world. Um, so it was interesting to kind of get into it and get this kind of mix of art pop and like singer songwriter, a little bit of folk in there, not much, but it is very watery, which I was kind of expecting. Um, but it is, I don't know, it's really, really, really easy to get into. I think the writing is the biggest issue on this record. It's very top 40 pop album writing. It's nothing crazy. I think it's definitely a step or two down from Happier Than Ever, which she was brash and bold and out there on that record. And that's what I really enjoyed is because her personality is amazing. And
Mm.
when that came out in that record, it was one of my favorite parts of it. I think it definitely took a back seat on this one. I'm wondering if it's just I don't know. It felt like the writing wasn't as tight. But I mean, she shined vocally, I think, more on these tracks. So the intro "Skinny" is pretty nice, very watery, slow intro to this record. And then you get "Lunch," which is pretty much the banger of this thing. I think it's the highest energy track. It's the one that's going to be, on the charts. Which is funny because it is just raunchy. But it goes really hard. I love the very lo-fi 2000s Limp Bizkit esque music video that comes with this too. Um, but yeah, great. I think even as like a standard pop hit, I think the bass works well. I think the way the song builds is pretty great. Um, there's just enough tweaks and everything, and Phineas really feels like he figured out how to like evolve a track as it goes on. To varying success, I would say in here. Um, I don't know how to Chihiro. It's a Ghibli reference, Spirited Away. I just don't remember how to pronounce that name um, for the third track, but it is a really fantastic track. I think this is the one she teased like a week before the album. Um, but this really takes this like kind of cool synth pop dance downbeat kind of feel to it, and like kind of gets muted in this track. Um, and the build throughout the track, the vocals, everything is really, really great. Birds of a Feather is a very kind of standard, like pop indie kind of feel, which is nice. Um, I think same with Wildflower too. It's hard to talk about the tracks individually. I think the thing that succeeds the best with this album is just creating a vibe, um, because it all sounds great, and the dynamics and the range here is just really great, and everything just sounds really pretty and nice. And I think that is the best part about this record, because I mean, you know, it. I think this is the first Billy album where you actually put it on, and it's like this sounds like a top 40 pop record. Um, it sounds like it's trying to get like reach the most ears possible. Um, then we have the greatest, which is pretty. I like this track. It is very formulaic in the fact that it is like starts small and explodes into like this big triumphant build. Um, I've seen it done a million times, but it's still cool. Uh, then we have the song that's in French that I will not pronounce because why would I pronounce French? Um, it's this track's really nice. The very unexpected switch into like a full on like synth dance track at the end was really slick. She also released an extended version of this that just has that back portion and extends it out, which I think is great. I feel like she should have added some of that onto the back of the song because I always feel like I want more of that section at the end because it is such a cool. It reminds me of our first record and just like that cool, edgy kind of pop sound. Um, the diner's cool. It's got this kind of wonky beat, a little bit fun. I don't know. This record is very subtle. You got to like really kind of just take it as it is. Um, but I think the synths on here are really well placed, and the mixing is fantastic. Um, it definitely sounds like her budget has gone up like quite a bit, but at the same time, it's still the same two people producing this, which is great. Um, but I think the best song in here is "The Closer Blue." Uh, it is so catchy. It's been stuck in my head like since it came out. It's a fantastic closer. The way that the song builds, you have this really infectious hook at the beginning, and it like kind of devolves and kind of dissolves as the album ends, like and gets so watery. Um, it's really great. So yeah, it's a very solid record. I don't think it's better than Happier Than Ever. I think Happier Than Ever is still above this by not sizable margin, but definitely noticeable. Um, but I still think it's a great record. Yeah, there's like chart shenanigans aside, I think it's a really good effort still. Um, so yeah, check it out. I'm sure most people already have because it's Billie Eilish. You'll probably just hear it on the radio or when you walk into a store. Um, but I mean, with the music I typically listen to, it's always nice when like I have a pop artist that I enjoy that puts out a solid record. Um, I always get a lot out of it. It's very easy listening, and I don't listen to a lot of stuff that is easy listening normally. So it's always a nice contrast. But check it out.
Hmm.
Um, Rhapsody back
Oh,
after 4 years. I had no idea she was dropping. Um, I think this is her first since 2019. Yeah, Eve. Eve was a fantastic record. I've been singing that praise for that record a while ago. Um, Super underrated record still. But she's got a new one. Please don't cry. It's an hour and 5 minutes. It is too long. I will say that right up front. I fell in and out of it quite a bit. Um, but the highlights of this record are great. I think she definitely sounds like a combo of like more like aggressive hip hop artists. I know people compare her to Kendrick a lot, but I think Lil Sims is comparable to Kendrick. She's more of like a J. Cole, Black Thought kind of
mm,
stylistically, um, which goes well. I think her lyricism on this project is great. I think the subject matter is fantastic. It has such a great warm sound. But the way that Southern hip hop and that kind of thing just like gets blown in here is great. There's some fantastic bangers. There's some interesting production choices. Um, I definitely need to sit with this one a lot. It's definitely a beast to get through. An hour and 5 minutes is a lot when it comes to a rap record like this. Um, just because like you have to pay attention for most of it, and it's very hard to do that unless you're like literally sitting down and reading it. But the highlights that I've had on here are great. I think what is it? Back in My Bag is probably the best on here. Absolutely phenomenal beat, rapping, cadence, all of it is great. Um, but yeah, this is a pretty solid hip hop record. I don't have too much to say about it right now. I'm gonna probably dive into it more whenever I'm feeling it. Um, I still think Eve is better than this as of now. I think Eve was just a phenomenal record. Layla's Wisdom is pretty great too. Um, but she remains like incredibly underrated in the hip hop space. Um, and I don't know. She has a very unique lane in like having that more Lauren Hill style, like old school, like '90s hip hop sound, but still updated for today. Um, so yeah, really solid. I will probably have more to say about this later in the year whenever I revisit it and give it more of the attention it probably deserves. But off first listen, it is pretty nice. Um,
nice.
and then the big one for me this week that I also had no idea was dropping. I don't know how these two got past my radar. We had a new Makami album. It's called The Rich Axe Haitian. He did two X's, so I'm going to say it that way. This one is 17 tracks, 47 minutes. And I think this is the best hip hop record this year by a sizable margin. I think Rock Marciano had a pretty great record, but this kind of blows it out of the water in my mind. I think he did that style a lot better. Um, which is funny because Rock Marciano is on the second song and is one of my favorites. Um, but yeah, this record is fantastic. I think it's my favorite Makami album. Definitely think it's stronger than Pray for Haiti. I did enjoy the kind of Griselda West Side Gun like production and track listing on Pray for Haiti, but I think this is so much more colorful and vibrant and like off the wall. Um, I think it's really fantastic. It is just bars getting shot at you like constantly throughout this whole thing. Um, and I think there's been issues with this being on streaming platforms. It's got like taken on and off like twice, which is really
Oh,
weird. I don't know what's going on. Um, I don't know. Makami's always very mysterious. Like you can't. He does not put his lyrics on Genius or anywhere. He just does not make them available. So it's just up to you to figure it out.
mm,
He charges a lot for his music. It's very interesting. Um, But I mean, skill wise level, he is up there. Like I think he is one of the best out, like top 10, I would say. And his rapping on this is phenomenal. The production list on this album is incredible. We got Kate Renata, August Fanon, Conductor Williams, Quelle Chris, Messiah Music. So you got a lot of backwoods associates on here. But also having someone like Kate Renata on here is great. Um, and you can definitely tell when Conductor Williams gives his beats to certain artists, like because these conductor beats on this record are fantastic. The last conductor beat I heard before this was J. Cole got a conductor beat for 7 Minute Drill, and it was not meshing with J. Cole at all. I don't think he knows what to do over a beat like this, because a lot of this is drumless and it has that different kind of it's a different beast altogether to tackle. But the album is really fantastic. It is strong. It is like all these tracks are really great. Um, I think his commentary too on just Haiti in general has been something that I always like really enjoyed. Um, I think on this album he goes even deeper than he did on something like Pray for Haiti, because Haiti right now and for decades past has been in like a very interesting situation. They are the poorest country in this hemisphere. They are like their elections are like blatantly rigged by the U.S. They're essentially a U.S. puppet state without being an official puppet state. Um, Ever since the Haitian Revolution, they've pretty much been like blackballed from the rest of the world and have been kept down because of that. So he talks about that a lot on here. There's like some skits slash interludes that touch on that, and I think they go over really well. But the production is just so colorful and exciting and off the wall here. It is such a joy to listen to. It is so refreshing because sometimes this underground hip hop style of drumless and more experimental can get a little bit muddy and a little bit samey. Um, no matter how much I love a Boldy James or a Rock Marciano or whatever, they do start to blend together every once in a while. But I feel like this is definitely a standout in that specific genre, because there's so many memorable tracks on here. I mean, you have Copy Cold with Black Thought with Quelle Chris production, like that is phenomenal. Um, and you have the title track with Kate Tronado production with O3 Greedo as a feature. Like these are like it's stacked on here. You got the God Fahim, you got your old Droog, Rock Marciano. Yeah, it's a great track listing. So if you're into experimental hip hop at all, check this out. It is really, really great. Um, I feel like I've always almost gotten Makami. I was like always on the edge of getting him, and I think this record is the one that like I'm like, okay, I'm fully in now.
Hmm.
This is the one that kind of connected with me. Um, Before he was like, all right, he's a really great hip hop artist and he has two records that I really enjoy, but I don't understand like the appeal of him yet. And I feel like this definitely unlocked that for me. So check it out. It is a ride. I think just sonically too, it's going to be a great time, even if you're not absorbing the lyrics, because the sonics and the range on here are great. So yeah, check it out. I think those are the big ones this week. I've been listening to the Kara Jackson record that we listened to. So if
Yes,
that's on the
very
channel,
good.
go check that out. It's fantastic. Um, and I did listen to another Microphones record. I think I'm officially stating that I'm doing a deep dive, discography deep dive of both the Microphones and Mount Erie, with a couple of exceptions. Because I finally had a chance. The Glow Part 2 has been cursed for me since we've done that reaction. I have not been able to like maybe once or twice, but I haven't been able to like fully sit down and give that album my full attention because every time I tried, something would interrupt me or I'd have to go do something. Like I've never had the chance to just sit down and just listen. Um, so I finally did that with the Glow Part 2 this weekend, and I think it. I already gave the album 100 before like I did this, but after like this listening session, I'm like, this is like top 5 albums of all time for me. I think it again, it's like it clicked, but it didn't really click until I listened to it this weekend. And I'm like, oh my God, this thing is so leaps and bounds ahead of most things I've heard. Um, that like droning bass note on the last track, I didn't realize that thing is across the entire album and never stops.
Oh, I
It
didn't
is
know
in the
that.
mix of every single song.
Hmm.
So I'm like sitting on the couch and listening on my really good headphones closed my eyes and just ran through this thing, and you can like literally see like the forest you're going into, the harsh hits of noise of being storms. You have this line on, like through the forest of this droning note that kind of takes you linear, like on a linear path through this record. It's an incredible experience. Like when you give your full like body and mind to this thing for that hour and 6 minutes, you come out of it like feeling like you left a therapy session. It's crazy. Um, I think it finally hit for me, and all things Phil, this guy through the microphones in Mount Erie that I've listened to has been nothing but just like incredible music. So I'm doing a deep dive. I'm gonna do all of the microphones records besides Mount Erie because we're gonna be doing that one on the channel whenever we get to it.
Sure.
Um, People have asked for that, and I think it's the second most popular microphones album. There is also microphones in 2020, but that is a 45 minute, or it's a 44 minute and 44 second track. That's it. So
Oh,
we're not going to react to that.
yeah.
Um, so I'm going to do all the microphones records besides Mount Erie. We'll do that on the channel. And then when it comes to Mount Erie, I'm going to do every single Mount Erie record besides Dawn, which I have on my list. Um, and potentially Lost Wisdom. I heard one song on Lost Wisdom because it came up randomly after. I think it was You Swan Go On, which is a minute and a half track, and I was like, oh my god, because that's a collab album with other vocalists, so he's got like a duet kind of thing going, and it works really well.
Oh.
I think we would enjoy that one too. So I might skip Lost Wisdom and do that on the channel as well. Um, but as I'm looking through, I realize that he puts his work and homework like just out there when it comes to this. Like when I dug into the Glow Part Two's like creation more, I think that also helped my appreciation because that record Blood that came out the day after this record is just a whole bunch of like little studio recordings and little tiny things from the Glow Part Two. Because the way he made that record is essentially just scrapbooking ideas and concepts and throwing them together and seeing what happened, which is why it sounds so disjointed and weird. Um, but he has some like acoustic samurai sword, which is really weird. Um, and I don't know. It's interesting to see the process he's going through. Um, so the one I listened to for this week was "It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water," which was the one before the Glow Part Two, and I'm just going to call it the Glow Part One because that's what it is. Um, it came out almost exactly a year before it, um, and just listening to it, you can tell that the Glow Part Two is like such a glow up. No pun intended. It's kind of insane. Um, this is like Section 80 to Good Kid, Mad City levels of
Mm.
like growth in a year. Um, Not to say that there aren't some great tracks in here. I think there are. I think it's just like you hear the ideas brewing in his head throughout this record, but they're not fully realized until you get to the Glow Part Two. Um, but the pull is great. The opener, I think that's fantastic. Ice and Sand are also great, and then the Glow, which is an 11-minute track on this record, is also fantastic. Um, it's definitely noisier. It's more raw. There, there's a lot of harsh noise on this record too. There's like a high frequencies and I think the Gleam that are just kind of painful to listen to. Um, it's still a great record. I didn't realize that the first Microphones record is more like a shoegaze slacker rock record than it is a folk record. So the folk
Oh.
didn't really kick in until 2001,
Mm.
which is definitely what I prefer from him. But uh, it's still a pretty great record. It's more scrapbooky. It's harder to get into, but there is a female vocalist is on here quite a bit.
Oh.
Um, we hear her on Map, I think, on the Glow Part Two, but I think that's it.
Hmm.
So not sure what happened there, but I do like the duet on here. It's pretty great. Um, but yeah, I think it's a definitely a decent record. I would say it's definitely one to check out if you're just interested in like what became the Glow Part Two, because you have the Glow, you have the Gleam, and then you have Something, which makes sense on why the Glow Part Two. It's like I think it's Something One and Something Two. The song titles when we reacted to that were very confusing,
Yeah.
but it makes sense now. But yeah, great record. It's definitely weird. It's not too replayable, but I'm glad I listened to it. But yeah, I'll be doing a full deep dive into it because he has me like so enamored with everything he's done so far. So I'm just gonna dive right in and see what happens.
All
Um,
right.
but yeah, I will give. short little reviews, probably every week or so, depending on when I tackle the next ones. There seems to be a lot of smaller, like more experimental, just like I'm throwing it out there for you. Mount Erie seems to be the kind of outlet he takes to just throw out whatever he's feeling. So I'll do small little sections, and then once I do get through all of it, we'll probably do a longer, just like formal discography review. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
All
I think
right.
that's it. Uh, yeah, we got Beth Gibbons this week, and then we got
Yes.
something, and then we'll be diving into new release madness. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure. Well, I think I was just gonna spin my wheel after
yeah,
Beth Givens.
got to fit
Um,
Boney Bear in there somewhere too.
yeah, Bon Iver. I'm really itching for Seven Swans.
Ooh,
I
yes.
need some more Sufjan in my life, and
Uh huh.
I pulled a me. I bought
Did you
Seven
buy
Swans on vinyl,
that?
but it was the 25th anniversary or 20th anniversary.
Oh,
They released Asthmatic Kitty, and this is rad as hell. They did a vinyl that's a zoetrope, which is one of those like it's like a disc that has a bunch of images. So when you spin it, it has
mm-hmm.
a moving image, and it's just like the swan flying, taking off. And I'm like,
That's pretty
that's
sick.
so cool. I had to get it, and it was only $30. And I'm like, okay, well,
Sweet.
that's a no brainer.
All this
So
vinyl is so cheap besides the Ascension for some reason.
yeah, I don't get that. I don't know, but yeah, I got that email today, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna have to do it. So then I did it, and now I'm like, well, now I have to do it. I think it was already on my wheel, but I think it's on yours too. So
Yeah, we'll get to it
we'll get to it.
soon.
But I did listen to some new stuff today,
Ooh.
actually. I listened to Tracy Chapman's self titled album for no real particular reason. Um, I think Fast Car is a damn near perfect song. Probably one of my favorite hits of the 80s. So I'm like, hey, I've heard good things about this album. I've heard good things about her in general. I'm like, well, I'll check it out. This is generally regarded to be one of her best albums. So I listened to it, and man, she came out swinging. This is off rip, maybe one of the best folk records I've heard. Um, I She really swings hard in like the social commentary zone, which totally makes sense. This was made in the late 80s, the heat of the like conservative boom that was going on. And as a lesbian black woman, she had a lot of things to say, and I loved it. I added it to my wheel, so we will be doing it eventually. But I did well, maybe I'll save my thoughts, more thoughts for our main channel video when we eventually get to it. But I just wanted to give a little plug to one of the goats. So I listened to that. I also
Mhm.
started listening to Michael Kiwanuka's Kiwanuka. That's the name of the album. I don't know if you're aware of this guy. He does soul.
Yeah,
Yeah, really nice.
he's pretty good actually.
Have you listened to any of his albums?
Um, I think I have listened to that one actually.
Oh, okay. Maybe we won't do it then. It would be weird
Oh,
if
I've
I.
heard a couple of songs, but
Okay.
we can do it because I do want to get back into it.
Okay. Well, I listened to it and I'm like, this is a really unique voice because nobody's making
Yes.
this sound. I'm like, I'm interested. So I listened to like the first couple of tracks and I'm like, okay, I'll save it. So that's on my list now. And the other thing I listened to was a pop record from last year. Oh, geez, I'll have to pull it up in my recently played. It is In the End, It Always Does by Japanese House. Um, I had never heard of Japanese House before. I think I did a thing today where I put on the Caroline Polachek album and then I just let it ride. My classic move. And that one of the songs came on. I'm like, man, this like is really good really good pop music. So I threw it on and then I read the background of the album, and it's apparently about her experience and being in a thruple and having it kind of like fizzle out towards the end. And each song is like about a different time in that relationship. I'm like, this is quirky and weird. I'll add it to my list. So I added it to my list. So so that was most of the new stuff I listened to this week. Um, I think that might be it for albums I listened to, but a lot of good stuff. I needed stuff to fill out my wheel. I was running low on mez, so I put some on. So
Hard category.
it is. It's a very hard category, and I look at your list, and you have a lot. I think you probably had like double the amount of mez as I did, and like I have a very small pool.
I feel like I could throw everything into me.
That's true. I'm very unpredictable on what I like. You're pretty solid
Yeah.
in that you like most things. So
Yeah.
it makes it a little easy to be like, oh, okay, well, it's either a good.
Like most things, love few things.
That's true. That's true. But it makes it easy to just be like, okay, well, he's probably a good chance that he's going to like this. So I'll put that in a good. And so then Mez kind of this weird in between. I'm like, I don't know what you might like. Because I feel like you like most everything I show you. So, um, yeah, filled it out. That was my
Our
little.
wheel system is collapsing.
No, that's fine.
We're converging too close.
No, our tastes have just changed a lot from when we started.
True.
We've really, I don't know about we, but you've really gained the critic's palate that you listen to a lot of
Yes.
stuff. Um, so it's pretty easy to know what I'm not going to like. Throw any shoegaze record towards the end.
I will.
And you will.
Next time we get a yikes, it's a shoegaze black metal record. So.
It is? I thought you were going to do, oh wait, Cemetery is not a yikes.
Nah, it's a semi yikes.
Yeah, because you're a coward.
Yep.
I just disagree. I disagree with that rating entirely, and I think you're gaming the system. I'll come out and say it. I think you're gaming the system because you want to listen to it.
It's
And
for content.
fine, fine. I'll let you be that way. I just wanted to weigh on your conscience a little bit.
My conscience is clear.
Very well. Then I think that's it for this week's episode. Listen to our Kara Jackson or System of a Down reaction. Those have been up and have been getting great responses. Everybody loves us in general.
They have actually. So
Really?
yeah, our audience is pretty good now.
Okay.
We're past the initial like YouTube algorithm boom where we just got everybody and it sucked to like people who actually stick around week to week. So it's nice.
That's true. That's true. I did see,
And comfy.
I think the last time I checked the comments, there was like another Mariah Carey thing. And I'm like,
Just randomly, yeah.
yeah, we still get those. And I'm like, man, I don't want to see this.
I care about those comments significantly less than I did when that video came out. So.
Yeah, that's true. But I think like, and I don't want to put this person on blast, but I think that their criticism of us was lame and kind of short-sighted or dumb. Because they were like,
Most of the comments in that video.
yeah, it's just like, it was a trash reaction. They don't understand the meaning of an icon and a legend. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't, an icon and a legend. She has this status. So therefore, any criticism towards her is void and
Well,
moot.
it's the Taylor Swift way of viewing media.
Yeah, I just don't get it. We're like, nobody, there's certain people
We
that
try
are
to stay
void of
away from those
criticism.
artists, and we didn't.
Yeah, well, we didn't know. Or I
No,
didn't know.
yeah, I think we had a great criticism for the first couple of weeks on that video, and then it spiraled into like people that don't listen to music just being
Yeah.
Mariah Carey stans and not understanding anything.
You two are white. You can't appreciate R&B.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah. I
which
just.
you know, semi fair, but at the same time, it's like I mean,
I don't know. I love R&B. It's like one of my favorite genres. I don't. I don't know. Luther Vandross is my favorite artist of all time. Although, is that R&B? That's R&B. Luther
we should
Vandross.
cut the podcast.
What's wrong with Luther Vandross?
Bro ruined his argument. I love R&B. Names artists that he does not know if is R&B or not.
I was just trying to pick a random artist. Wait. No, he's R&B. He's got to be. Are you kidding me? Never Too Much is one of the best songs of all time.
Too much.
Never Too
Yeah, let's
Much.
play by Cardi.
Bye.